So why should you become intentional about your mindset? Becoming intentional is the big difference between whether you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Becoming intentional about your mindset and aware about your mindset and being intentional about changing your mindset exhibits a growth mindset. And quite frankly, most people just react their way through life. Like amoebas. Even amoebas can respond to stimuli. We have brains, beautiful, complex brains. We can do much better than that. But people do respond to stimuli. All of us do, and that's natural, that's human. But we can also then control those responses to said stimuli. We are not a victim of our circumstances. We are not a victim of our emotions either. This is very important for you to understand. Now, while much of our automatic responses are just that, they're habitual, they're automatic, they're not fixed. And that's important for us to grasp and wrap our minds around during this process of transformation. Knowing that it is not fixed, knowing that you do have control over it is very empowering. So the problem with most individuals who tend to be a bit more fixed in their mindset is they have these automatic programs that were established early in life and cemented as they experience life. Because if you watch the super nerdy version of the mindset video, you'll understand a little bit more of the fact that the more you have a mindset, the more you tend to cement that mindset into like concrete in your mind. And it's not that it's not malleable, it is. It's just more automatic. Because the more you have that mindset, the more the mindset tends to self-perpetuate and then prove that, well, see, I was right. See, that's what your brain's always doing. So if you have a mindset, it tends to filter out all the things that don't add up to your expectations. That's why we need to be alarmed about your mindset. So the challenge here is we don't challenge our mindset. We don't often challenge our mindset. We just accept it. We go, oh, I'm having these negative thoughts. Bleh, I'm a terrible person. No, we don't challenge it. And worse yet, there isn't enough emphasis in our society about why we should challenge negative mindsets, particularly negative self-talk. It's almost like we're encouraged to think we suck, which is stupid, to be quite frank with you. But many, and don't get mad, but many religions as well encourage people to think that they're lowly, worthless worms, and that's not the case. Not all religions are like that, of course, obviously, but some do as well. So much of our culture is having this drive to think it's okay for you to be miserable. In fact, you should be miserable because how dare you have a good day? Which is mind-blowing. But in the back of your mind, automatically, that program is playing and is changing how you respond to stimuli. Yeah, big problem. So becoming intentional allows you to challenge these labels, these negative beliefs, and these mindsets that you have that are actually sabotaging your growth in your career and in your life. So what you might see happen, particularly with people who are not intentional or have a fixed mindset, might be some of the following. They react to situations. They don't respond. They react. They just react, they blow up, they do whatever, and then they justify said reaction by saying, well, this is just the way I am. You just have to deal with me. No, that's BS. You don't have to do that because, in fact, you are a person who has control over yourself. So the other thing you might see from people who are a little not quite so intentional is they are a victim of their circumstance, right? They have the victim mentality. This has happened to me. Oh, woe is me. How terrible is life? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of thinking, okay, so that happened. What can I do with what I have? What can I learn from this experience? How can I improve? And how can I make sure this doesn't happen in the future? Most importantly, what's inside of my control? So I don't obsess about things that aren't outside or are outside of my control, which are useless and a waste of energy to do that. But those people who are more fixed mindsets, they tend to obsess about things they can't control and let it push their buttons and allow other people to push their buttons. That happens quite frequently. So, which is a great segue into the fact that their environment controls their emotion, which in fact It's the other way around. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have a gut knee-jerk reaction. We all do. That's called being human. I will say, however, that you do have control over how you respond past that initial reaction. Those people with more fixed mindsets are not aware that they can do this. And they will just let the environment drive their emotion. And I was one of these people when I was a young individual as well. I was one of these people who would let the environment drive my emotions. If I was driving into work and had a bad commute, then I just had a bad day. Which is crazy when you think about it, but that's what I would do. I would just allow the environment and circumstances to mandate how I felt, my mindset, what I did that day. And that's like literally like saying, oh, here's my power, have it. And just give it away. It's crazy. But we give our power away all the time. And we're not even aware of it. And we justify it by saying, well, this is just the way I am. I've said that a couple times, but I've heard it so often, and I've said it too. Oh, this is just the way I am. You need to get used to me. Other people just need to suck it up, buttercup. This is just the way I am. It's not pretty. But you hear this, whether you vocalize it or not. And it's very true. Many people say, well, this is just who I am and you need to get used to me. No, this is not just who you are. Thanks to neuroplasticity, you have control over who you are. So you and no one else really has to accept that. Okay? But also, most people are completely unconscious of their impact and why they should even challenge their mindset to begin with. Unfortunately, thanks to some of the circumstances I mentioned earlier, a lot of us, the vast majority of us, suffer from low self-esteem or some sort of self-worth challenge. And the problem with that is when you do have a low self-worth, you tend to not realize just how much impact you truly have. And you have so much more than you realize. So much more. I mean, every person you come in contact with, whether or not you even say anything, just say your body language, you impact them. I'll give you a great example. Back when I was allowing the environment to dictate my emotions for the rest of the day, I would walk into work, and if I had a bad commute, I'd be like, big scowl, big frown. And everybody I met, well, it impacted them. Some more than others less, particularly those who had to work with me, like, oh God, here we go. It's going to be one of those days. She's going to be asking me, where's this report, 3 times. So I wasn't mean. I wasn't a mean person, not intentionally. But see, my body language spoke volumes. And in case you haven't figured out, I'm a pretty expressive person. So when I was mad, everybody knew it. Oh, Lord. Anyway. So you have much more impact than you give yourself credit for. Okay? So not only in your own life, but also on other people. And if you are a parent, spouse, brother, sister, whatever, you also impact your family. And if you're a parent, it's kind of a really big deal because your mindset is telling your children what's okay and what's not okay. No pressure. And last but certainly not least, those people with that are less intentional, less aware of their mindset, allow that internal chatter to control them versus the other way around. And for those of you who are like, wait a minute, I can control my inner critic. Yes. I'm not saying you'll get rid of it. That would be nice. But you can mitigate it. That is within your control. Now, with all this being said, I would like to just point out that if you have a mental disability or something going on there, this not trying to simplify that for you, okay? I'm not a licensed, mental counselor or doctor or something like that. So if you do have a medical condition, let's say a brain chemical imbalance, all bets are off and you will have a little bit more challenge. And I would also like to point out the research has shown that a lot of the techniques that I leverage with cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, do help individuals and professionals who suffer with some challenges, mood, anxiety disorders, etc. So to circle back to my original topic, your internal chatter, which we all have it, and no, you're not weird if you hear this little voice in your head telling you that you suck or that you could have done something better or worse or whatever was going on. Everyone has one of those, and that's what I call my inner critic. And I fired my inner critic many years ago. So whenever it decides to pop up its ugly head and actually have the nerve to say anything, I tell it to shut up. But the challenge here is your inner critic doesn't always just say things. Sometimes it just makes you feel bad for no stinking good reason. So the good news is if you're more intentional and more aware of this, you can have more control over your inner critic. So it's important for us to understand that was critical to create the internal narrative you want and not the one you don't.